Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. I think it's magic and also chanting, like a lot of chanting. Like people get together and chant, and their chants weave together like a rope, like a braided rope.
Right. It's pushing that rope.
Mm-hmm. Really pushing rope. Yeah. It's
really
pushing rope across the globe. That's the internet's motto.
Pushing rope across the globe.
Yep, pushing rope.
I like that.
Pushing rope out of its wrists like some sort of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Hey everybody.
Hello everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name isn't. It's Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Spider-Man something home.
No Way Home.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah. You know, those are the words that they put on the poster and in the beginning of the movie, Dave. Yeah, he's trying to get home, but there's no way home.
There's no way home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ever since I got bit by that spider, I've only had 1 week where my life has felt normal. That was when you found out.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, we started getting some visitors.
I hope my audio's good, by the way, because I'm on like a older mic.
Yeah.
I'm in Massachusetts, so I just want to apologize if my sound quality is noticeably worse in some way. I don't think it is, Tom.
I mean, Massachusetts is famously like 16 years in the past, so
yeah.
I feel like your audio.
I just feel naked. I feel naked right now.
No, your audio is going to sound like it was recorded in like 2005.
Yeah. So this is the movie, right?
Yeah, it's a movie. What are you doing?
I don't know. What did you think about Spider-Man No Way Home?
Spider-Man 3 Part 2?
Yeah.
I actually liked it. I liked it more than I was expecting to. So that's fun. Yeah.
That's cool. I'm like the other way where I was expecting to really like it and I thought it was okay.
Sure.
I didn't hate it or anything. It's not a bad movie.
No, I think that's probably the biggest surprise is that it's not a bad movie.
No, it wasn't. It's filled with plot holes, in my opinion, but I don't think it matters.
No, I don't think it... Yeah, there's a couple of things that I don't think necessarily matter because what this movie successfully did that I never anticipated was... not 100% successfully, but like they managed to make this huge mess of an idea into a story that is personally significant for its main character, which
yes, that was
very
key.
Surprised by. Yeah,
I think that's the key part of this. movie.
That's what made me forgive a lot of the kind of messiness was because at its core, it still told an emotional, personal story about its protagonist, which I did not expect. I thought the movie was going to be pure member berries.
Right. Well, you look at a movie like Eternals, right? And one of the biggest problem with Eternals wasn't the incredible plot holes. It was the fact that the characters were so fucking boring.
Yeah, everybody was like a lifeless slab of meat. Yeah, it's like, man, I can't connect with any of these motherfuckers because everybody's just like frowning into the middle distance all the time.
Right, exactly. So this is a very charming movie. I will say, I think it did lean too much on the meme stuff here and there. I don't know if you get this.
Not as much as I expected. Not as much as I expected.
Well, I feel like such a grouch. I have a worse time watching Marvel movies in Marvel audiences. Does that make sense?
It
like
does.
The audience of Marvel movies ruin the movies for me because they're like clapping seals at every little thing. And it's like, guys, calm down. Have you not seen a movie before? Like that sort of thing, where it's like, holy shit, guys. Like, and it's like where it's like a little kid behind me is murmuring the same things as a 30-year-old in front of me who's like, oh, it's Spider-Man. And it's like, calm the fuck down. They've made so many of these movies.
This is Spider-Man 3 Part 2. Like,
yeah, it makes... Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm glad you're having a good time.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I feel like a grouch, because it's like I'm just annoyed at people having a good time. It's the fact that I don't think the storytelling here, or like, this is the softest sci-fi it can get, nothing about these movies are like particularly clever. It's still just like the lowest hanging fruit. What the key that I think makes this succeed that we talked about is the fact that there's an emotional element to it.
Yeah.
They care about the characters, but it's not like, again, it was fine. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the worst. It's just when you're watching something that's like, oh, this is fun, and everybody around you is acting like they're seeing the second coming of Jesus. It's like, calm the fuck down, people. It's not that good. And then it makes you do that like contrarian backlash in your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
where you're like, all
see
right, Jesus Christ, yeah.
It would have been something though if they had opened up one of those portals and Christ stepped out.
Yes,
but also
absolutely
like Christ with web shooters, like Spider Christ.
Yes, Spider Christ.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we just made a franchise, Tom.
Yeah,
this is $1 million idea.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually disappointed because they didn't do anything that surprised me. This is all right. So this is the fandom disappointment. I wanted to see an X-Man. Like I wanted to see Hugh Jackman. I wanted them to do something that would,
Oh,
they did all the things that we knew they were gonna do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't know. I wouldn't have gone into this
against them.
No, yeah, I think I wouldn't have gone into this expecting to see X-Men or anything like that. Like
I'm waiting for Marvel because Eternals was the closest with fucking Blade. Like I'm waiting for that next phase. You know what I mean? For that moment where it's like, oh shit, because Marvel has one thing they're doing this time around is they're not doing the thing the first couple phases where they would, do like a Apple style PowerPoint where they'd be like, here's the next 10 years mapped out. So they have the ability to surprise us more. And I want them to take advantage of that,
Yeah, it's not going to happen in a Spider-Man movie.
No.
Like that's,
I guess
the messiest situation because it's like a joint production. Sony doesn't have,
that's a good point.
Sony doesn't have X-Men rights, so they're not gonna debut X-Men in a Spider-Man movie. Like it's
probably gonna happen in multiverse.
I'll tell you, Dave, you were a childish fool for thinking that.
That's true. I think Multiverse of Madness, right? That's where it would happen.
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know.
Did you?
What's that? Go ahead.
You saw the trailer at the end?
Yeah.
I was a little bummed because it didn't look very Sam Raimi. Because why would it?
No, it wouldn't. It's if you guys stay to the very end of the credits, the second post-credit scene is basically just a trailer, like a sneak peek of Doctor Strange 2, sort of like at the end of if you remember, at the end of the original, the first Captain America movie, they showed like a preview of the Avengers movie. So
did they?
Yeah, it was very similar to this. So it's like you don't. Or like at the end of Back to the Future 2 where they show you little clips from Back to the Future 3. So you don't really need to sit through the entire credits.
No, there's a post-credits of Venom.
That's just
like
confusing.
Yes, here's what I'll say. I would watch 2 hours of Tom Hardy being explained the plot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
As Venom.
Somebody trying to catch Eddie Brock up to speed on the MCU timeline. Yes.
But basically, it's one of the... I want to talk about the fact that this... I don't think this movie makes a lot of sense. For example, the end credit scene... So I assume everybody listening has watched the movie, right?
Yeah, we should probably go through the plot proper, but let's make this point about the post-credit scene that we wanted to make.
Yeah, basically, Doctor Strange does a spell that sends everybody back to the multiverse they're from. And so they show Eddie Brock disappear at the bar, but like he leaves a little bit of venom behind. Mm-hmm. And again, the person in the audience was like, "Oh my God," like next to me. And it's like, guys,
well, here, I don't
calm
know.
down.
This is the problem I'm having. All right, you finish the thought that you had.
Well, the problem I'm having is that should have disappeared with Eddie Brock. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah,
they're just shoehorning in like, and we're going to get a future Venom because this doesn't make sense, but here he is. Here's
what I don't get understand about that. One, the movie, the rule of the movie is Doctor Strange's spell is drawing people into our universe who know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Eddie Brock has no idea who Peter Parker is.
You're right. Well, okay.
But so it doesn't make sense that he would have been drawn into this universe. But beyond that, I thought he was in this universe. Like if you look at the trailer for Morbius, okay, like we're getting it's a little bit.
They show Michael Keaton.
They show Michael Keaton, and also there's anti-Spider-Man graffiti in one shot. There's a stencil of Spider-Man on the wall that says "murderer" kind of tagged across his face. So it's clear that Morbius takes place in the same universe as Spider-Man and Venom because they reference both the MCU and the Venom movies in the Morbius trailer. But I mean, of course, we haven't seen Morbius yet, so Morbius might also have some kind of wonky part with the multiverse. But the point is, I assumed Venom already was in the same universe. So
that's a very good point.
So the end credit sequence to Let There Be Carnage and the end credit sequence here just confused me. Like I don't. And
it is really confusing now that you mention it.
Yeah, and he leaves a little bit of himself behind. So I'm like, okay, so I guess they just. Like, see, we can have Venom in this universe, but I was like, I thought he already was. I'm very confused.
This is what I wanted to point out about this entire movie that I do think is why I'm bothered that people are calling this a slam dunk. I don't think the plot makes any sense.
It makes enough
I don't think
sense.
The inciting incident. Well, that's the problem, I guess, in my mind, is that what we were saying, where it's like a movie can be filled with plot holes and be great. You know, Back to the Future. Back to the Future is Jurassic sci-fi.
Park.
Yes. I do think for Marvel, they can do better. I guess that's what it is to me, is that I think it's starting to fall apart more than Marvel used to. The Doctor Strange spell, and I know this is like the nerd talking about Itchy and Scratchy hitting the xylophone, you know?
Yeah.
Or that's what it feels like. But I do think it matters. I do think it's getting too soft, and it's not a big gripe, but it is weird. They do this spell. The plot is that Peter is, first of all, Peter's treated like so. The ending of Spider-Man 2 Part 2
Spider-Man 2 Part 3.
Part 3. Thank you. Sorry. I'm sorry, everybody.
It was the third Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Whiplash exposes him.
Whiplash?
Whiplash. Wait, oh yeah, that's an actual character. I meant the movie Whiplash. No, I was talking about J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh, okay.
Whiplash.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about...
I realized that's confusing.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about Mickey Rourke in Iron Man 2. I was like, are you being cheeky?
No.
And the answer is yes, you were being cheeky, but not
in a different way.
In a different way, yeah.
So J. Jonah Jameson exposes him, and so they right away, the plot is just like he goes to they don't get into MIT, they get like raided, and right away I was like, didn't he save the universe? Why are they treating him like he's a criminal? Like, it's very weird the way like the government goes after him, and Stark is like, we can't do anything, and it's like, you guys have had overreaching power through the entire series until this moment. Mm-hmm. Like, why is he like handcuffed in a police station? That just felt very weird considering everything that had happened until this point.
He helped save the universe. I mean, this was a problem.
Think the government.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, you'd think the government would come to him and be like, we need to ask you questions about what the universe is. Mm-hmm. Like, tell us about other planets. We're not going to arrest you. You are like, you've been to space. We just want to talk. Like, if anything, you would be it's so weird. What were you saying?
I was saying that was kind of an issue with a couple of the Marvel stuff that's like Falcon and Winter Soldier. There's this element of like they saved the entire universe. Like, can they get, I don't know, a stipend from the government to exist? Like, it's really strange, though. Anyway, that's whatever. But yeah,
it's not. That's what I'm saying. It's not whatever at this point in my mind. It's like this is inconsistent and weird. Like, it's weird that they did this to Spider-Man. It felt out of place because the MCU is as a whole a story. You know, it all goes together. So it's breaking its own internal logic at this point, in my opinion. Like, it felt weird. Like, it was off-putting to me that they would react that way. But they have to do that because then they have the movie, which is he asked Doctor Strange to erase everybody's memory.
Yeah. Which,
again, is a weird thing for Doctor Strange to do, in my opinion.
After all the bitching in the original Doctor Strange about not messing with time, it's the reason why, like, Mordo leaves the Sorcerer Society or whatever it is, because he thinks messing with time is unnatural. It's this, like, and the whole, I don't know, it seemed a little out of character that Doctor Strange would be so cavalier about doing something like that. Like, he feels bad for him, and I get it.
Right. I thought the reveal was going to be that he isn't Doctor Strange. Like, I because it was so out of character. It also looked like, and this is whatever, it looked like Benedict, they clearly, like, I don't know if they were filming Doctor Strange yet. Like, it looked like they glued some shit onto him, you know, a little bit. Mm-hmm. But that's whatever. And then he does this spell, and the spell is designed to erase everybody's memory.
Yeah.
Of Peter Parker. I don't know why that would open up the multiverse, and they don't care to explain. And
they explained enough.
I get it. I guess, like, this is the part where it's like, this is a real stupid gripe, but I just, like, it just felt like those two ideas, the memory of everybody and the multiverse, are completely unrelated concepts.
I thought they did a good job, weird. Actually, of him. The way they explain it is that he's drawing in everybody from the way the spell goes wrong and backfires, and that's kind of a lesson we've always had in any fiction about magic, is that if a spell goes wrong, it will go wrong in wholly unpredictable ways that are kind of related to what you were trying to do. Like, that's magic. That's what you get fucking with magic.
I think a comparison would have been great if they compared it to programming, which is like, I put in too many, like, negative statements and then everything canceled out and went wonky. Like, I can see that general idea. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just he's trying to make everybody who knows that he's Peter Parker is going to forget that. But then he keeps wanting Doctor Strange to make exceptions, so he keeps trying to change the spell as he's casting it, and it goes wrong, so it ends up drawing everyone from all realities who know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Yeah. That's the explanation they give. And that was fine for me.
And Eddie Brock. And Eddie Brock, for some reason. The Venom stuff is very confusing. Like, I don't think they needed that. Like, I don't know. I think, again, I
just assumed he was already in the universe. I just figured he was. I don't know.
Yeah, that would have been it's the symptom of the fact that I think, and this is what bothers me, is knowing that they put down a list and they're like, these things need to happen. Now write excuses for them to happen. You know what I mean? It's that top-down thing where they're like, we have to have Willem Dafoe say, I'm something of a scientist myself. Because that meme, you got to do the meme, so let's cram it in. You know, it felt like they were starting from, like, it feels like fanfic to me, where it's like, we want to do all the things, and it doesn't really matter how it happens, and it doesn't matter how vague or weird it is, because I would argue at the end, the way Doctor Strange solves all this, and I do want to talk about this now because it connects the two, at the end, he does the forget spell again to close the timeline. Why does that work? Like, why does that work? That makes no sense. He says, like, I can't, they're all coming in, and he says, do the forget time spell. Wouldn't that just mean they still come in, but they've all forgotten who Spider-Man is? Like, you'd still have all the villains, So, and, like, why does that send them back to their timeline, to their multiverse? How does that solve it?
Something to do with the magic that is allowing his friends and loved ones to remember that he's Spider-Man, but nobody else. Something about that.
Something about that, but it doesn't make any sense.
It makes as much sense as it needs to for me.
Yeah, see, for me, it feels like it's the entire crux of the movie. It's the Death Star. You know, this is the thing. This is the thing we're solving. And they sort of just yada yada it. And at that point, it's like, well, just make anything then. Because, like, it could be anything.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing. It could be literally anything.
So it could be literally anything. So this is the thing that they went with. Right.
But that bothers me because that is supposed to be the point of the film, the struggle, the thing, the goal. We're all trying to do this thing. Well, and if it doesn't make sense, then that bothers me. Like, it's weird. It's like you look at any movie, you look at Jurassic Park, we have to get off the island, right? And so there's rules to that. And if at the end of Jurassic Park, they got on like a subway that was just under the main area that just brought them out, it would be like, oh, okay, so I guess nothing matters. Like that's what I mean is like the spell work, there wasn't any logic to it. So it could just be whatever they needed it to be. And in the end, the logic of like, okay, so everybody forgets your memory and that's how they go back doesn't add up to me.
Well, that's how they all got here in the first place. I don't know. It made as much sense as it needed to for me.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
I just don't understand the logic of the magic because making everybody forget who he is, how does that relate to closing the multiverse?
Well, that's how the spell went wrong. Like the spell was to make everybody forget, but he made additions to it to keep certain people exempt from forgetting that. And because something went wrong during the addition of those elements, that's what opened up the multiverse. So the only way to close it is to complete the spell in that direction and eliminate those variables and just be like, everybody forgets. That's what the movie explains. That's what the movie says anyway.
Right.
And that makes enough sense.
And that's what pressing the button on the magic box is?
No, pressing the button sends everybody, the people that they already had come through, go back. Getting everybody to forget closes all the tears in the multiverse. So pressing the button sends everybody back that's already here. Making everybody forget closes those holes.
What does the button do, though? Like, what is that spell? They contain the spell, right?
Yes, yeah.
And that spell is that unstable spell that will, like, what does pressing that button do? Release the spell?
Yeah.
Destroy the spell?
It releases it.
Okay, so that completes the spell.
That version of it, I think.
But he said it's an unstable spell, and that's why he contained it. Like, why did he contain it in the first place then? And then Willem Dafoe explodes the spell, and that releases the spell, and that opens the multiverse. Like, that's what makes it become unstable, right?
I think.
See, this is what I mean. Because Willem Dafoe throws the pumpkin bomb, that explodes the cube, and then that's when Doctor Strange is like, they're all coming in. And so that's like the point of no return.
All right. Yeah, you're right.
And then he's like, how do we fix it? And he's like, do the spell that makes everybody forget. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that would fix it.
Well, because if they're being drawn through because they know Peter Parker is Spider-Man across all realities or whatever, if that's forgotten, and I don't know, man. I don't know. Just he finishes the spell so that everybody.
Okay, I think you almost got there, though. I think this actually does make a little sense. By making everybody forget who Spider-Man is, it cancels out the first spell that says everybody who knows who Spider-Man is coming here.
Yeah.
It says, therefore, no one knows who Spider-Man is. Therefore, no one comes in.
Yeah.
I think that works. I think that actually works. I just wish they explained it a little better. But I'm glad we worked this out, Tom.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad we spent half this podcast talking about this.
Why does Ned have powers?
I don't know. Why did Doctor Strange?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, some people are just good at magic.
Yeah. I wish they had set that up in the previous ones. I don't know. It's fine.
That didn't matter.
Yeah.
He picks up the sling ring. He's good at magic.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah.
fine.
I'm going through all the stuff that I'm like, these were the things that I felt like were like
can we talk
a
about,
little weird.
Can we talk about what worked? Because I don't want to spend the entire
that's why I was
nitpicking the dumb shit.
That's why I was front loading it.
That's fair.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying is I do think this stuff does matter, but not as much. Again, all this stuff doesn't matter that much.
I don't think it matters as much. Yeah.
I'll tell you why it doesn't matter to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because when stupid fucking Andrew Garfield catches MJ and then just starts crying, it got me.
Yeah.
That was delightful.
My only bummer with that is I wish I was fully expecting them to show us little epilogues of the two different Peters in their own realities. And I for sure thought that they were going to show us Andrew Garfield going back to his reality. And now Emma Stone's still alive because of what they did. Like they cured Electro, and
that's the other part that doesn't make sense, but actually, it's fine.
No, it does. I mean, she could still be dead in his reality, even if they did cure Electro, because if you remember, Dane DeHaan kills her, and he doesn't show up in this movie.
Right.
So,
well, there's that weird thing where the Doc Ock and Green Goblin and stuff, they're all brought in before they died, but the Spider-Men are all aged.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but whatever. I guess it doesn't matter. like the rules of when they show up, like what stage of their life. Because like the multiverse, you'd think it'd be all like there's certain things Dave, that's like
the answer's right there.
What?
It's the reason because the two Peters are still alive, so they continued to live. Like the dead bad guys are sort of frozen in time from when they died. Like
they died, so they come in.
That's why they didn't age, because they stopped living at that point.
Right. Also, final unavoidable plot hole. I don't know why there'd be three guys named Peter Parker who all look different. Like, wouldn't they be the same guy? Doesn't matter.
Not necessarily.
Well, why would they would have different names then, right? Like,
not necessarily.
Like into the Spider-Verse, there's different Spider-Men, but they're different people. You know what I mean? Like they're different people who got bit by a radioactive spider. This is three. I guess it's like the sperm and stuff that happened. Like the genetics made them all different.
It's infinite possibilities and infinite realities, man. Like that's true. That's the multiverse. It's Cloud Atlas, bro. They covered this all in Cloud Atlas. It's the same soul in different bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. So what? I guess what worked. It's again the emotional aspect I thought worked really well.
Yeah, it's the kind of the story of Spider-Man is about jumping on grenades. It's about doing the thing that sucks, but that is the right thing. And sort of like the lesson of Spider-Man is every time Peter tries to be selfish, it's catastrophic and tragic. So he has to always he always does the completely selfless thing that's like, cutting a pound of flesh off of himself. And this movie kind of really goes into that and really resonates. But also it's not like it's tragic, but it's still like there's a little bit of hope thrown in there. With his interaction with the different Spider-Men was like actually really good in addition to being just like fun and like a member berries thing. I thought they actually made it really good because it's like he's getting wisdom from these other two guys that have lived a different version of his life. And it's like, look, you're always going to
stages.
Yeah. You're always going to run into choices like this that you have to make. And the lesson that we've seen that is true across every reality is that you can't make the selfish choice. That's like the point of being Spider-Man. You have these powers, but you can't be selfish with them. Right.
I also really like that the way they're demonstrating that is, so this is another this is, I think, my favorite part. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I didn't even need the other Spider-Men because of this. I mean, I loved the other Spider-Man showing up.
Yes.
But the primary plot of all these villains from the previous movies show up and Peter's going to fix them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an interesting idea because they're none of them, because they sort of compare it to like mental health and it's like, that's weird. But none of them, they've all been changed by super science,
Yeah.
Most of them.
And they're all kind of they're all kind of tragic characters.
Yeah. I wish they did one of the characters. I guess Sandman is one where it's like, nope, didn't go nuts. I'm just a jerk, Like there's a few of them like that.
Well, that's kind of Electro.
Yeah, that's kind of Electro. I understood where those villains were coming from, and I kind of wanted them to explore it more, because Doc Ock gets cured, quote unquote cured, but by being cured, he still has awesome robot arms.
Yeah, he still rules.
And he's like, guys, just be cured like me. And it's like, motherfucker, that means losing my powers. Like Electro loses his powers. Like I get
right, because
same with Sandman, where there's like, it's okay now. You don't get to turn into a giant cool sand monster. And it's like, but I wanted to.
Yeah.
That was the fun. So it depends. But yeah, the point is that he's in this universe, we have better technology and therefore can actually help these people. And that's what Peter Parker's struggle with Doctor Strange is. Because Doctor Strange just wants them to send them back to their timeline where they are all about to be murdered.
Yeah, they're all about to die. Most of them. And so, yeah, Sandman's doing fine. Lizard also does not die at the end of the movie.
But he gets jailed. Sandman's going to Vegas, baby.
Sandman fucks off. Yeah, he's...
If I was Sandman, I'd be the most bothered by this bullshit.
He kind of was.
Look, guys.
He was really they were like, we got to save all these people. He's like, I don't give a shit about any of these people.
I'm a Sandman. Just let me be.
Monster. Yeah, I'm a 2-bit hood who got sand powers to steal money from my sick child. That's kind of all I care about. I don't give a shit whether this lizard man has to continue living his life as a lizard man.
I have another logic question real quick. Since when was Willem Dafoe super strong? Is that in the originals? Because I thought it was all the suit.
No. It has nothing to do with the suit. Oh, you're right.
He drinks the formula stuff, he throws the guy.
It's the Goblin serum, which is basically the super soldier serum.
Yeah. I loved when they fucking did a pro wrestling match.
Yeah, there are more than 2 suplexes in this movie, which delighted the shit out of me. And if you want to, let me tell you, if you want to see Willem Dafoe scoop tackle child boy Tom Holland and just plant him through several floors of a condominium high rise, this is the film for you.
In my opinion, that's the biggest delight of this movie, which is that I fully expected we would get an ending fight with all of them, and maybe then that's when Tobey Maguire... I am bummed Daredevil shows up, but...
That was funny.
Matt Murdock shows up, but Daredevil doesn't.
That was funny as shit to me, because there's been, at this point, years of speculation as to whether Charlie Cox Daredevil and anybody else from the Netflix shows would show up in the MCU movies. And he's just his reveal is just sort of thrown away with very little fanfare in the very beginning. And I thought that was very funny.
It is funny. What they're doing, because I heard rumors that also we got...
oh, they're not rumors.
Kingpin.
He's in the show.
Okay. Kingpin is officially in Hawkeye.
Yes.
I just haven't gotten to that episode, but the internet is terrible.
He's revealed. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, it's fine. And so they're clearly, what they're doing with that is they're like, we're sorry, we're going to work it back in. It's not like a reveal. It's just they skipped a beat and now they're back in. That's all.
Right, because they always were.
And I appreciate that.
They always were in the MCU. They were referencing the Avengers movies and all the shit in the MCU in the shows. It was just the movies acknowledging it after the end of the Netflix series, I think, is just the extra step people were waiting for. So they
and
do
now they're
going to
bring back the show.
Yeah, probably. Or they'll throw him in something or something.
I really wanted Daredevil. It wouldn't have made any sense. At the ending fight for Daredevil to be like, hi guys, I'm here too.
Yeah.
But I just would have been delighted by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess what it was is I expected them to not do that much. And the fact that we got to watch Willem Dafoe fucking fight, he's all over this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's so I love the fact, because I thought oh, okay, they got once Doc Ock got in the jail, I was like, oh, that sucks. So this is going to be the movie. They're all going to do cameos in their little jails or something. And then that's not it at all. And then Willem Dafoe is fucking beating up Tom Holland, killing Aunt May.
Kills
Spoilers.
Aunt May, yeah.
And it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
The Green Goblin, I think what it is I love that they were like, you know what? Let's give Green Goblin even more, let's make him, he's the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's the villain of this movie. And I super appreciate that.
He's the biggest problem, I think. Next to Electro, he's like the biggest problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that they were. It's almost like
he's a little bastard too. Every time, every scene he shows up in, like they find a pumpkin bomb wedge somewhere, and like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah, it's great. I just love that he already had his day in Spider-Man.
Yeah,
like he was a big problem in the Raimi series. He dies in the first one, but he continues to resonate throughout the movies. I just love that they were like, no, he is the greatest. He is the greatest villain. We're going to bring him back, and he is going to once again be a fucking problem and bring Spider-Man to his knees.
He is.
And I love that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he is, depending on who you ask, but most, I guess, comics people and fans of Spider-Man will agree, he is like Spider-Man's like arch nemesis. He's like his Joker.
Right. He's the Lex Luthor. Yeah. That makes sense.
And from what I had read, Willem Dafoe wasn't really interested in coming back for a cameo. Oh
my god!
So
maybe. You know what? They're like, okay, not a cameo, Willem. You will be the main villain.
You are in most of this movie.
He is peak form.
Yeah.
He's doing it all over again.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Again, that's the stuff where it's like, I know this is. It feels, again, when he says I'm something of a scientist myself, it's like, oh, fuck you, and also that's great.
Yeah.
Like it's so pandering, but the fact that every single actor is killing it. Like Toby, Andrew Garfield, they're all doing their characters perfectly because I'm sure they're being paid a fuck ton.
Yeah.
They're all fully committed, and it's so fucking delightful.
It's a lot of fun
to see them all.
Yeah, and I don't mind that, like, the villains don't have too much characterization outside of, like, they're like two-dimensional versions of the characters we saw already, which doesn't matter because that's not the point. Like, the point is what they represent for Peter in the movie. It's not...
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, even from a storytelling standpoint, I do not mind that a lot of the guest characters are two-dimensional because the purpose they serve in the story is what they represent for Peter in the story, which is I got to do the right thing here and save these people as opposed to letting them be doomed the way that I'm being told needs to happen.
It's because they earn the stuff that I hate, like when they're like, oh, what'd you do? Oh, I fell in a vat of eels, and they're like, that's dumb, and it's like, it's your movies, like. It's the winking at the camera shit. They do that in this.
Yeah.
But it's more earned because it's what you're saying, which is that they tell a story that affects the protagonist, that is emotional and matters. That's the stuff that, again, that's the stuff that it's like, if you do that, I can forgive a lot.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, if people are wondering, because I do think it feels weird that, like, for example, when Jurassic World does it, it's the worst. It drives me nuts. That's because it's on top of the fact that the movie's bad.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's a bad story. There's a lot of problems with Jurassic World, and it's a completely broken narrative. This story managed to identify its protagonist and the characters that actually matter and tell a strong, cohesive, emotional story about that character. So
that stuff still does bother me in this.
Everything else is just kind of bonus, though. You know, like you're still getting the good story that like resonates with you. So you get to have like the member berries, and it doesn't feel cynical to me when that happens because they've done the work of like, well, we know this character matters to you, so we've told a story that matters about them. So we're going to throw in these references to all the other movies that you saw and liked, and it's kind of more fun that way. When you do it like that, it's more fun, and it feels less cynical and less like a Hollywood machine, even though it is a Hollywood machine. But they at least
I was gonna say,
did the work to tell the story.
Less.
Yeah, and I think that matters. I do think that matters.
It matters huge. It's the biggest part.
Yeah,
but it matters. But that's why it still to me goes back to this movie was good. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't because it's just, I do think there's a world out there where this movie could have been done better. Because I do think most of the fun in games is that meme pandering, like we're just like we're just doing the things. Like you said, they're all very two-dimensional. They're doing the self-referencing stuff. It's all like, yep, we're going to pause for the audience to cheer moments. And I think that stuff bogs it down for me, but I'm glad it's a good movie. I will say on the core plot, like taking away all the references and talking about the core plot, I will say I am bummed that it does feel like another symptom of not letting Peter Parker progress. Because, like, you talk about this, where you talk about specifically they don't let him graduate high school, but they erase everybody's memory. They did this with the Gamora stuff, too, where they're like, and now it's like Guardians 1 again. And it's like, but can we just continue the story? Like, they reset everything at the end of this, and they do it more like, okay, he gets his bad apartment, where they could have put in that guy from Spider-Man 3, and they didn't.
Well, he's dead. But they could have CGI. Yeah, they should have CGI'd Macho Man into this too. Bonesaw. Yeah. Bonesaw should have dropped an elbow out of the sky from one of those tears in the multiverse. Been waiting for a rematch.
It was bothersome because here's another thing. All right, so everybody forgets who Spider-Man is. That's it. He doesn't time travel. That's a specific plot point. So wouldn't there be weeks worth of media about Peter Parker that still exists?
I would assume that would vanish. I don't know.
Why though?
I don't know, man.
I would assume that would vanish too, I guess. But like the stuff on MJ's phone, like you have to assume that's what happened too. I guess. But that's never mentioned. They could have literally just shown that physically happen, I guess, but it doesn't matter. Sorry. What I was getting to is that it does feel like at the end, it's just like, okay, no one knows he's Spider-Man. He has the Uncle Ben thing, but now it's Aunt May. He's on his own.
It's also more than Aunt May. He's like lost everyone.
He's lost everyone. Yeah. And it just feels like they've reset him in this weird way. Not back to how he was in the first movies, but back to like the previous versions, you know? Where it's like he's Tobey Maguire living in New York in his shitty apartment. And so
that's Spider-Man.
It is a progression of this. Yeah, it's a progression of this character, but it feels like, everything was like an origin up until this point.
I guess.
It's weird.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what else you want from him.
I don't know either.
Like that's who Spider-Man is.
To me
he's a broke dude fighting crime because it's the right thing to do. And it always, like, his life is just kind of very difficult because he doesn't do anything for himself.
Yeah, I think what it is it's the MJ stuff. It's we're resetting this again. And it's like, we already did this. Now you have to do it with Ned too. And it's like, it's that side of Spider-Man where I think they're very smart about keeping it that he has a hidden identity, because that's a great side of superheroes that we don't see as much anymore. But it still doesn't feel like they've moved the character forward as much as it's still like stagnant, in the sense that he's just now alone and he has to like, it's the MJ thing. It's the moment Spider-Man and MJ get together, they don't make any more movies. It feels like they're like, we're done, because they can't like get married and like continue a relationship. So that relationship gets constantly like nerfed at every second. Again, it's the Gamora thing where it's like, okay, so I guess we're back to this again. Does that make sense?
A little. Yeah. I mean, but that's more about one specific part of the character. Like, I do think this character has, like, he matures at the end of it. Like, that's part of the point of the story.
Right. He's becoming a little man.
Yeah. So I think, like, I don't entirely agree that the character has been reset. Like, this character does progress in this movie. It's just his relationship with MJ specifically has been reset. And it leaves it like he's not gonna try to restart it. He's gonna leave it alone and move on.
I guess it's I've never seen Spider-Man in a healthy relationship with MJ, like married, like having figured himself out, because he never gets past that. Maybe that's the comics.
That's the comics. Like I mean, well, he's married, and there's additional problems that arise, obviously, when your husband is a crime fighter with a secret identity who sort of like has hit a very firm ceiling in terms of how much money he can make. So there's a lot. They do a lot of interesting stuff with that relationship in the comics for sure. But I don't know. It's just
this is a comic book issue because it's the fact that if comic book movies progressed, they wouldn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? Where it's like it always has to kind of stagnate. It has to go from one stagnation to the next.
They're episodic. So yeah.
Yeah, and they could never quite end. So it's like, okay, so where he is now, it's like, what are you going to make like 3 more Spider-Man movies? When is this character going to have a closing, like a actual like resolution to him?
I don't know.
Or is it just going to be this constant just fucking him around?
What does the resolution look like? Like, I mean, it's they either stop
that's my question too. Yeah.
Stop being the superhero or they die. Like you're going to get one of the versions from like Christopher Nolan's Batman or something. Like that might be the only superhero story I think that's told. Well, if you count the Wolverine stuff, but like, it's they either
There's
die or stop being the superhero.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, what is there? Like it's either they continue being the superhero into perpetuity, or they stop for one reason, or they either stop voluntarily or they die. Like I think that's the only resolutions you get.
All right, but I could accept a version where his personal life has a completion, and it's like, and I'm still Spider-Man, you know, like that sort of thing, where it's like I'm happy, I figured my shit out, I'm gonna keep being Spider-Man. And that's the ending, like a personal ending to the character, not the superhero. Like I could accept that too.
Yeah, and I don't know. They could,
because at some point these movies are going to end.
Yeah,
and I guess my question is, like, what is like? That's what I'm saying is like married to MJ, maybe like settling down, figuring out his life. He's still Spider-Man, and like. But you're right, is that it always has to be they die or they stop being it, because otherwise they're just going to keep making more movies forever.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind an ending that's just a little more like it's something in between. But again, I don't know. I don't know if they're thinking about it. I'm sure he's going to do several more movies.
Yeah. I'm
sure he'll be in Multiverse Madness.
We'll see. His contract is up with this movie, so I mean, but they'll they'll probably sign another one with him, but it's not like a done deal. So this could be it, and I mean, this is somewhere in between of what you're just describing. This is like basically Peter growing up. At the end of this movie, and sort of leaving like the kid version of Peter, like the happy-go-lucky teen and goofing around with his pals and getting into geez, like searching for father figures. Like he's done searching for father figures at least, you know.
Yes,
like
his daddy search is over.
They've capped that off, and they grow him up in this movie, and I think that is somewhere in between, like you were talking about. It's more.
They definitely grow him up.
It's more open-ended than what you're. It sounds like what you're describing, but I think this is somewhere in between, like you were saying.
This would be a really interesting way to end. Like, I know this isn't the end, but this would have been a very interesting way to end. It would have been a real bummer way to end, but it is like, because basically what the reveal here is that the last 3 movies have been an origin story, right? Like,
I mean, in a way,
like basically, well, in terms of like, the last 3 movies have been the point between getting bit by a spider and Uncle Ben dying, essentially, in the story, right? Because now it's like he's on his own. He's in New York. We got J. Jonah Jameson looking for pictures. Like, this is like, I know it's I don't know the comics, and I'm just thinking about the movies, but it's essentially the point that got Peter Parker in like Spider-Man 1 to get his own apartment in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's really funny to me. It's like everything he's gone through is like condensed into the first act of the first Raimi movie.
In a way,
in terms of his personal life, like his high school to like adult life.
I mean, if you're clocking it by events, then like just the events that happened to him. Yeah. But I mean, so I don't know. It's like,
that's what I'm saying. That would be an interesting final film where it's like, and now he's Spider-Man. Like, now he's the Spider-Man we all know, swinging around New York.
Yeah.
J. Jonah Jameson looking for pictures.
Yeah. That's true.
But yeah, I'm sure they'll make another.
Most likely. I mean,
yeah.
It's they'll throw their gigantic money hat at him, and he'll sign up for 5 more movies.
Tom Holland, he could be like, I want a hand job from Mickey Mouse. And they're like, the Mickey Mouse, the one we keep in the basement.
Yeah,
and he's like,
get him out
that's
here.
the one.
Get him upstairs.
Yep. And I will receive 1 hand job from Mickey Mouse, please.
Give me a little coupon with his smiling face on it that says 1 hand job.
Yeah, I will give you 10 minutes of Spider-Man for 1 Mickey Mouse hand job.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to give me a bunch.
We're looking at least 2 dozen hand jobs if you want a full movie.
Yeah. Any other people? Jamie Foxx is great in this.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx is interesting because I think he's the only character who's not really identifiably himself anymore. Because he's just Jamie Foxx. Like his character in Amazing Spider-Man 2, his character's like kind of this nerdy basket case who's very socially awkward and withdrawn and has strange hair and fake teeth. Like they really did a whole thing with him about being this outcast with social anxiety and a social disorder of some kind. In this movie, he's just Jamie Foxx. He's just handsome Hollywood funny man Jamie Foxx, which is
who like looks at the camera and he's like, there should be a black Spider-Man,
more or less.
And it's like, thanks. He should have been in this movie. You could you don't have a character just say it. Put him in the movie. Like just do the thing. But that's fine.
Yep.
He is just Jamie Foxx.
He's just Jamie Foxx, which is fun.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're not the same character at all, but that's fine. Like I don't
felt
care.
Like
no, I don't think anybody's favorite character was Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
No, I did appreciate how they gave them a little bit of redemption by making them a little more, giving them more.
Yeah.
Like giving Lizard more to do. Sandman, it felt like they did get, what's his name? Thomas Hayden Church.
Yeah.
For a while, I wasn't sure if they had, because he like remains in Sandman.
Oh, that was clearly he either couldn't or wouldn't come in to film anything. So like Sandman is just a pure mud guy the entire movie.
Yeah, and even when he turns into Thomas Hayden Church, he looks a little shiny.
It
was just like, I don't know if they actually ever got him.
I don't think they did. I'm like 99% sure that's just footage from Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, you're right.
And honestly, same thing with the Lizard when he turns back into Reese Ifans at the end.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's just footage from The Amazing Spider-Man. Like, I don't think they actually had either of those actors on set for any time. They just recorded dialogue.
Yeah. I think the de-aging of Doc Ock wasn't as bad as the trailers made it out to look. Willem Dafoe looked perfect, I thought. Was that just me? Like, he looked really good.
No, he looked great.
He was he was so good.
Yeah, he's killing it. He's Willem Dafoe. Like,
you know who I would say is the MVPs of this is Willem Dafoe and Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield, yeah, was a lot of fun. Like I like that he made it was nice to remind us all how distinct these different versions of Spider-Man have been. So I also really liked Toby as Spider-Dad. Like he was like the dad Spider-Man of them all. But yeah, like
he played it real calm. Like he was just
he's an old hand at this. Like he's like, that'll happen sometimes. And like Andrew Garfield's like really odd. I really appreciated that.
I liked how weird he was. Like it's sort of, it was a nice reminder of like, I like Andrew Garfield. Would I watch a 2-hour movie about him as Spider-Man? I don't know.
Maybe.
But he's delightful. He's delightful.
He's really, really fun.
I like him
in this movie.
Yeah.
It really felt like the characters he's been playing since Spider-Man really bled into this performance because he's been playing a lot of odd
That's what
weirdos.
It is. I think it's that the other two Spider-Men, they don't care as much about what they do. So they're like, yeah, have fun. Like, again, they were very meta. It was very, you produce your own web? That's weird. You know, like they did all we're going to recognize all the differences.
Yeah.
And like, it just felt like, it felt like, and not necessarily in a bad way, but their interactions and stuff felt like sketch comedy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they did the things that mattered that you were pointing out, which is the way they interact with Tom Holland was clearly very important.
Yeah.
in the writing, and they made it very important. But then all the like fun between them just felt like a bunch of like meta garbage. But it was still fun.
It was fun, and it was
of them,
and it was earned too. I think is the important thing.
Yeah, and just seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield do bits.
Yeah,
it was just like, oh, this is I'm enjoing their bits.
Yeah,
they're doing cracking his back. Yeah.
Because if you guys, if you guys remember, you may not remember. Some of you might be too young. But Tobey Maguire almost dropped out of the Spider-Man franchise in between Spider-Man 1 and 2. It's the rumors to this day that it was money, but like the official reason was that he hurt his back. And they even make a joke about it in Spider-Man 2 when he says, I'm back, and then he falls and lands on a car. And he's like, my back. So he was almost replaced by Jake Gyllenhaal in Spider-Man 2. They almost recast him in Spider-Man 2.
That they should have had a Jake Gyllenhaal Spider-Man show up.
Yeah, that would have been really fucking funny. And but he was Mysterio, so like Tom Holland would be freaking out like it's Mysterio, and he's like, "No, I'm Peter Parker from Earth 1019 or whatever."
By the way, you saying people might not remember, that was one of the bigger bummers as I was watching, and there was a child behind me, and the Green Goblin shows up, and the kid goes, "Who is that?" I'm like, "Oh, fuck,
that's right. It was 20 years ago.
It's 20 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was 20 damn years ago.
There was the other bummer is that the bigger cheer went to Andrew Garfield in the theater I was in. Because
he's the one the
it was like
remember.
College kids.
Yeah, it's the one that the kids remember, yeah. That was only 6 years ago, honestly, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like the last one. Well, 7 years ago, I'm sorry.
Where was Kirsten Dunst? She knows who Peter Parker or who Spider-Man is.
There were a couple of people who didn't get pulled through that know who Peter is. I was sort of expecting to see Kirsten Dunst and Emma Stone, but we don't see them, which is, I guess that's fine.
Well, Emma Stone's super dead.
But again, I thought they were going to give us epilogues of each Peter back in their own dimension, talking with their respective partners, and I thought they were going to do a reveal where like Emma hadn't died because of what they did to fix Electro in the past. But I was hoping for that. I don't think the movie necessarily needed it.
Oh, I want to push back. That would have pissed me off because one of my problems with Marvel
is that they buy it back.
It seems like is that they buy it back. And I liked that this was about dealing with death.
That's true.
And accepting it.
That's true, yeah.
And so, again, it was tragic. Again, the part where Andrew Garfield, the crowd cheered, of course. Yeah. It was very... This is another moment that I would have been really bothered by had it not been for what they did, which is that it's all in the trailers. Mary Jane falls, and they have Tom Holland miss her, and then Andrew Garfield comes in and saves her, and the crowd is like, "Oh, she did!" The crowd is so into it. But what made it work was then after he catches her, he doesn't say a joke. No, they don't do winking at the camera. He starts crying.
Yeah, he breaks down.
And it was like, oh, that's so good. Yeah. That is such a good way to do that.
Yeah, you're 100%.
I really appreciated that.
Yeah, you're 100%
Had they not done that. Yeah, because the actual action of having that Spider-Man save MJ is, if I had seen that on paper, I would have been like, oh, fuck that. That's gross. Don't do that shit. It's the fact that his reaction to it made it work really well.
Yeah, and you're right. And if they had shown Emma Stone still alive, that would have really undermined the point of the entire movie, which is dealing with it's making the unselfish choice that is going to take a pound of your flesh and just dealing with it.
Right. And so I think that's the movie through and through, which is that they figured out the stuff that didn't matter that they could have a lot of fun with. Mm-hmm. Having all the supervillains talk and stuff like that. And then they pinpointed the emotional stuff that did matter.
There was another small moment that
stuck like that.
Related to the Andrew Garfield catching Zendaya. There was another smaller emotional moment that like also weirdly got me. It's when Toby and Doc Ock get to talk.
Oh yeah, that was good.
He was like a mentor father figure to Toby in the movie. So he gets to ask him, he's like, oh, how are you? Like, but it's like really genuine. And he's like, oh my goodness, it's been so long since I've seen you. How are you doing? Right. And like Toby gets to like genuinely, like you see that he is actually very glad to see him again.
Yeah.
And get to speak with him and tell him how he's doing.
And I just really like the core idea of rehabilitation for these guys.
Yeah.
The fact that at the end, it's basically him learning, because Green Goblin kills Aunt May, and they basically do the thing that old movies didn't do. And this is what I really like about this movie versus the old Spider-Mans, and why it mattered to bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
Like why that works is that the first Spider-Man does the thing that the 2000s love to do, which is that you need the hero to not kill the villain in cold blood, but we want revenge.
Yeah.
It's America in a nutshell. You know, we're the heroes, but we want to see the bad guys die. And it's like, well, you can't get both now, can you? And so what movies love to do is they make the bad guy do something like, I don't know, send their glider flying at themselves that impales them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty dumb.
Taken straight from the comics, by the way. That is how Norman Osborn died in the original run of The Amazing Spider-Man.
It's silly. And it plays into our need to see the bad guy die, but the hero not get his hands dirty.
Well,
and it's like, you can't get both. And so what they do in this is the killing blow is him curing Green Goblin and not killing him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the idea of like compassion. He killed Aunt May. And instead of, and he's still doing the hero beat, which is, I'm not going to kill you. But what the added thing is that they go for rehabilitation versus punishment on the villain. So Green Goblin is presumably going to go to jail in his universe.
Probably.
And rehabilitate.
Yeah. One thing the original Raimi movies did recognize from that is that, yeah, we want revenge against the bad guy, and so he does die, but it's in a way that Peter doesn't kill him. But yeah, right, his death becomes a huge problem that Peter has to continue dealing with for the rest of the Raimi series. So it does a good job of pointing out that, like, look, when you this is part of revenge. Like, this, you have to then deal with the ripples of this person's death, which are going to be far-reaching and unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, I sure love those Raimi movies, but I will say it's still indicative of that time where it's like,
for sure,
all the villains die in those elaborate Rube Goldberg ways because you can't have Spider-Man kill them, but they have to die. There's Sandman is the only one who's like, I'm good now, and like they make it so he's always kind of good, and that Spider-Man 3 does deal with that idea of the darkness. But it's still like, it's just really neat to see an unforgivable villain who's unforgivable, who's doing things that it's like, you have to go, and seeing them get rehabilitated rather than punished is I think that's really neat.
Yeah. And they portray his sort of duality in a way that I don't think makes him entirely unforgivable, because he's not in complete control. Like, the Goblin personality takes over.
They show that he's a victim.
Right. So there is still he's not like wholly unforgivable. There is still a sympathetic element to the Green Goblin.
Which he was in the original.
It was in the original, yeah. Yep.
His last words, like, don't tell Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's again, this is part of what makes it really work, is that they didn't have to like change anything. The only thing, in my opinion, still is that, like, yeah, I'd be pissed at Doc Ock if I was one of these villains. When they're like, we have to cure, like Sandman. If I was Sandman, I'd be pissed, because it's like, fuck you, man. You don't need to cure me. I just turned into sand and I like robbing places. Like, fuck you.
Right now.
Yes, I'm a criminal. Yeah.
Now I'm going to use
Electro
a gun.
too. Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm just going to use a gun. Exactly.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm going to kill more people this way. Like, more people will die because I'm using a gun and not turning into flying sand. Good job, Spider-Man. It's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's what they represent.
Yeah, I know.
More than their actual characters.
Yeah. And again, Sandman doesn't die. Everything, if anything, all right, so here, if anything, Sandman's going to show back up to the fight with Venom and be like, guys, sorry, I can't help anymore. You pricks in the future turned me into a regular dude.
He doesn't help
and now
them at
I
all.
can't help.
He doesn't
help?
No,
oh, you're right.
He does not help them at all.
He just shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just like apologizes at the end and then floats off.
He said that he apologizes. He and Toby share a little bit of a cry, and he floats off in the breeze like Mary Poppins.
Right.
It's very funny.
Which don't know how he can fly, but it's fine.
He turns into sand and blows away. I don't know, man.
Right. But doesn't that mean he goes places? Wouldn't he just sort of like flow into the air?
Blown in 1,000 different directions?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not here to like figure out exactly how the Sandman works.
All right, that's fair. It seems like he has flying powers.
He does.
Yeah. I don't know why he got flying powers.
He just does.
Yeah. So yeah, this movie was fine. I think I'll like it more second viewing when I'm like in my comfort of my home and not filled in a theater full of people.
That's fair. That is fair.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have anything else to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. If you guys have been following the old GU, you know that we've been a little apprehensive about the trailers for like, man, this looks like a big old mess. And it's still pretty messy, but like they pulled off an emotional story that was very satisfying. And so it made all the messiness just kind of like candy, you know what I mean? Just like it's like, oh, okay, this is, it's fine, it's fun. All the fun stuff was just like extra.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. If I was like Paul Hollywood, this cake would taste delicious. It's the cake tastes delicious. It has great flavor, but it just doesn't look great. That's my opinion, is that I don't think the logic in this particularly works. I do think they play it too fast and loose with stuff like Ned. Like, I learned magic now. And it's like, well, that's extremely convenient. All right, let's run with that. I think the logic and the structure of this movie isn't very good. I think the heart makes up for it, and the performances, the emotional stuff, they nail. And so I do think like it should matter that they phone in the other stuff. But it is a lot of fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And again, the most important things they get right.
Yeah,
I just think there's room to get the other stuff right too, Yeah. Like I think Marvel would actually be more fun if they paid more attention to the sci-fi. I know it doesn't matter, especially with magic, but I think there's just more stuff they could do there, Like I think they could have more fun with it and make it more interesting. And they don't.
Yeah.
Especially with multiverse. Like I don't know, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's all.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm done.
I think we're all... Yeah. Hey. Thanks for listening, folks.
What are you doing?
Hey.
What are you doing
Thanks
today?
for listening. I don't know. I hope my sound quality is good. I'm very self-conscious about it because I'm looking at my waveform.
Uh-huh.
Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
And like every now and then if I go like, watch, if I go, bah! Did you hear me yell?
I did, yeah.
Oh, that's good. But the waveform seems to cut me off. So I think if I make if I go, bah! Tom, I don't think they heard me do that noise.
They might not have. So you know what? We should probably end this podcast.
Folks, we have a Patreon. Patreon.com/GameFullyUnemployed. If you go on there for $5 a month, you get exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder's a Maniac, also some that we do with the Small Beans, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys, where this month is holidays, so we're picking back up. We're picking it back up in January, but there's still plenty of stuff to do there. We normally watch movies with our patrons every Friday night. That's for $10 a month. We'll be picking that back up after the holidays. For the month of December, we are done. But there's still plenty going on.
Yeah, we also have a store.
We pre-record.
We sure do. That's we plan ahead. Unlike some aspects of the MCU. We have a store. Head over to GameFullyUnemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store. We have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on t-shirts, stickers, mugs, posters, all kinds of things. So check that out. You goofs.
You goofballs.
You goofy goofs.
We will be doing The Matrix, but not next week, the week after. We are having next week. We have a special which is wrapping up some movies that we wanted to review but didn't. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
And then we will be talking about Z Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Are you excited for The Matrix?
Yeah, man. I'm excited for everything we got. We got our year-end special and we got The Matrix. That's going to be a fine way to end the month. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep your
going out with a bang.
Keep your ears open. Keep your ear peepers peeled. I don't know.
Cram those ears open.
Mm-hmm.
Cram them open.
Cram them open. Get Mickey Mouse's silky fingers into your ears. His silky hand job fingers into your ear holes.
Getting a hand job from Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
That's the life right there.
It's some kind of life.